Welcome back to another episode of CRE, The Unspoken Truth. I'm Charlie Coppola with my father, Craig. And today our topic is negotiating splits with your partner, or just negotiating splits in general. And so I think you said this the other day. This is one of the most common topics that brokers and other people in your industry are asking you for your opinion on. Why do you think that is? And what would you say on that?
So there really is two topics here, and let's be clear what we're going to talk about today. The first topic is how do you negotiate splits on a team? That's a long conversation because there's several ways to do it. And the second way is how do you negotiate splits on just a transaction? Maybe it's within your team if you guys have individual splits, or if someone brings you a deal, how do you negotiate that split? And so how do we look at it? And I think today we want to talk about just a transaction of brokers bringing you or you're bringing them, and then you go, okay, let's talk about how we're going to do this split.
Sure.
And what are some key points of that? Is that fair? And then maybe I think next year we're going to talk about on one of our webinars, we're going to talk about negotiating team splits. So we're
Yeah.
going to do that on a more formal basis. It will be with all the people that join us for our quarterlies, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we do those quarterly, and that's one of the topics we have in, I think, at the end of 26.
That's right. So
And
we're going
end
to
of
do that. We're going to
2026.
do right, I think, at the end of 26. So
Yeah,
that topic's coming, but today we're just going to talk about what's happened, and it's really been interesting to talk about how negotiating deals and splits has changed over the last 20 years, and where we are today, and where I see the future going.
yeah. So how has it changed? I guess that's a good question there. How has it changed over the years, and where do you see it going?
Well, when I first got in the business, a referral, if you just had a client and you referred it to another broker, was worth 10 to 20%. 10% of the whole deal if you were on both sides, or 20% if you just were on a tenor rep side. And so today, fast forward 40 years, today, a referral or a control of a client, not just a referral where they have to go chase business. If I hand you a deal, or I'm going to work with you on a deal, it's worth half to start. So there's a 30 to 40% increase in the value just for controlling the client.
Yeah,
And so that is a massive change if you think about it. And so we still have some old time brokers that say, oh, somebody referred me a deal and they get 20%. So let me just talk about what that is. Let's say you get a call as a commercial broker from a residential broker, and they go, hey, I've got this client, I sold them a house and they're looking for some office space. That's typically
20.
20%,
Yeah,
right? So that's 20%. They're giving you a name and a phone number and a warm intro. Control means, hey, this is somebody I've done deals with in the past, or this is my fraternity brother, or this is somebody that we represent, but I just can't do this transaction. And so I'm going to walk you into the deal, and that's worth 50%.
is that usually um like an overstate lines type of intro there, or it doesn't matter, or a different asset type if you focus office, but you have a client who's venturing into retail? Like, are those
That's
the two scenarios, or what
no, I
else?
think it's control. I think it's
Okay.
control. How much control do you have? If you have total control, if they're close,
Mhm.
then it's worth 50%. If you have
Yeah.
somewhat control, like we get referrals all the time. I'm going to refer you a deal, and you have to go pitch it.
Yeah.
It's like
That's an
that's
intro.
10% or 20%. I still have to go get the business, I have to win it. Or somebody's going like, hey, I know this broker out of Seattle, and he's representing this group, and I want now you're a broker's broker. There's a lot of crazy things that go on, but I always start with control.
Yeah.
And so, how much control do they have? And I check that out up front. It's like, and the questions are easy. The first question is, tell me, how do you know these people?
Mm.
And then they'll tell you their relationship. Well, I just did this with them. Well, that might be not that much. Or they said, I've known this person since they were 5, and they're one of my best friends.
Right.
Um, one of our users, Derek, came in, and his big client across the country. I mean, they've known each other since they're 25 years. That's control. Derek
Yeah.
shows up with him. That's like, okay, that's immediately half of the deal.
Right.
And so you go, that's the start.
Right. One thing I've been surprised to learn since we started One Source, because my exposure, my experience in this industry has been through your lens and watching you and your team. One thing I've been surprised to see is a lot of brokers have partners on a deal by deal basis, not so much a team like yours, which shares everything. You negotiate splits once a year, and then it's like you guys are a full team on everything. Which
Yeah, and
there
we're going to
are
get into
full teams.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're going to get into that and then on our webinar. We'll get
yeah,
into that, but if to just say but here's how I would say, first of all, control.
yeah,
And then so we talk about, and if you talk, I use control, some people use procuring. So who is procuring the business and how much, if we just get more detailed, who's procuring the business and how much control do they have?
yeah,
So if it's a 10 rep side, that's easy. It's a one out deal, but it gets more complicated if this is a client that you could potentially turn into a multi-transaction or cross state lines. So one of the second thing that I say is on control. That's the first question. The second question is how big is this? How big is this referral going to be? Early in my career, I was fortunate to work with a broker out of New York, Sam Razi, who controlled Cigna. And we made a deal up front. It was 50-50. 20 years later, it was 50-50. Now, Sam hadn't been around for 5 years, but I honored that agreement. A lot of brokers wouldn't have done that, but I did. I made a deal with him. I had a big client for a long period of time. And so I stayed with him. A lot of brokers will say, look, this is 50-50 for the first deal. I might pay you a little bit on the second. By the third deal, you're out.
yeah,
And so the second piece of this is to talk up front
yeah,
when you're either giving the business or getting the business about what the expectations of both parties are. If this is a one out deal, we're going to sell a piece of land for a family. This is the only property they own. That's easy. If this is a multi-state client and you're going to do all the business and we're going to run it, you're going to talk about, okay, look, we're going to pay you this much for the first 2 or 3, and then we're going to pay you this. And at the end, we're going to pay X as we do these transactions, or after 10, we're not going to pay you. I don't care how people negotiate it, but it needs to be done in the negotiation up front. And then
yeah,
number 2, it needs to be put in writing. I can't tell you how many times people negotiate these deals. They walk away, they never put it in writing. And then guess what? A year later, when you close the deal, they go, I thought I was getting 50. And you go, no, we agreed on 40. Remember that? And so
yeah,
the third thing is how I put in writing, send an
yeah,
email and just send back, say, here's what we agreed to today. Reply to me, agreed. That's all you need. You don't need I guess you could do a formal document, but I don't think you need to do that.
yeah, yeah. So you're talking a little bit like do it up front, do it in writing, a little bit more, like the numbers. You're sharing 50%, 40%, 10%. What advice would you have to brokers like approaching those conversations? And I know just one or two of them, you said do it up front. We say be a buffalo, is like just go talk about it. Don't sit there and hope it resolves itself. Any other kind of
Well,
soft skill tips you would give?
yeah, well, I think you want to know several things, right? In the email, it's going to say, you brought me this deal on this day. This is the transaction. Because sometimes somebody will bring you a 5,000-foot office deal or a 50,000-foot office deal, and you go, it's worth 30%. And then it turns into a 2,000-foot sublease. It's like, well, okay, that wasn't what we agreed to. So this is a new transaction. I'm going to come to you when it changes and talk to you about that. And a lot of times brokers bring in shit deals like, hey, I got this sublease deal. It's a good client of mine and I still want 40%. It's like, no, I'm doing you a favor trying to sublease your client space. We don't take anything. Like we're going to give it all to you. Like we
Yeah,
did a deal in Denver last year where we were just taking care of our client. We're like, this is a shitty sublease. If you could get it done, great, you're going to get the money.
yeah,
And so we do that all the time. Not all the time, but we do it. And so this idea of having the conversation, and I would ask multiple questions, right? Who procured it, the relationship depth, what we're agreeing to for what transaction. And then if it changes, we have the right, you don't put it in there, but everybody should agree. Hey, if it doesn't turn out this way, then let's have another conversation.
yeah, yeah.
Because I
How?
will tell you one thing, 100%. When you do the deal and there's a commission to be booked, everybody will be there with their hand out.
Yeah.
That's what we know. When the money's on the table, everybody was, oh, that was my best friend I've ever known, even though they didn't know him. This is bullshit. I'm going to take you to arbitration. So lesson learned on my end multiple times, trusting partners, trusting other brokers, and not getting it done. So if you're a junior broker, you got to get it in writing. Go, look,
Yeah.
I want it on there because I'm going to spend my time on this.
It's probably best practice always to be in writing.
Always,
It doesn't
always.
hurt, even if you do have the trust there, it doesn't hurt to just add an email. Yeah,
It doesn't hurt. Well, I would say you need to have it. It's best
you
practice
need
for
it.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said
Yeah.
that.
So what percentage of your deals are you having these types of conversations on? Because I feel like some brokers build their business on more of these types of deals where they're pulling in a partner or a partner's pulling them in.
Yeah,
And,
well, if you're a loan broker, you're probably doing this 80 or
often,
90% of your deals.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
for us on our team, we're doing them on all cross state lines. So if we're not doing the deal in Arizona, and we did deals in 18 states last year, every single one of those is a negotiation. And it's just so you know, we're getting more than 50% because we'll bring a national client and we're going to run the deal from Phoenix. We need your local, we need your broker's license, but we want more. And why do we want more? Because you're going to tour, you're going to tell us what the market is, and we're going to basically do everything because that's what we do for all of these transactions. And uh, those conversations, they're really quick, they're upfront, and the broker
yeah,
has the right to say no. But they also know if they say no, then we just go to somebody else. So a lot of times people are just like, yeah, for that kind of work, they'll say something like, um, if that's all I have to do is tour them and not send out proposals or not do this or not negotiate that, then I'm happy. But if I have to do more, then I'm going to come to you and we're going to get more from you. And we're like,
yeah,
of course, here's what we're telling you we're going to do. And if we don't for some reason, and occasionally it happens,
yeah.
the deal gets sideways. You need them to tour twice. You need them to do something. The building falls out. They need another building.
That sounds like a core kind of principle or value of your teams, though, is you guys want to retain control of your clients. Do you see that across like the deals that get referred to you in Phoenix, like the other way where you don't own the client? Do you see other brokers saying, hey, this is really important to us to own the client and run the deal, even though we need you boots on the ground?
It's 50-50. I mean, it depends on who the broker is and their relationship.
Yeah,
Some brokers just have great relationships. There's an SIOR he's out of Mississippi, and he has this one client, and for 20 years he won. The SIOR has a national award for giving referrals to other SIORs. It's just an award, and he won that award, I would say 10 or 15 years in a row because he had this client, and they were doing 30 deals a year, and he was referring to SIORs, and like that guy had a relationship,
yeah,
and so he was there every year, and if you're a good broker, and one of the things we found out, and this, we have a lot of small shops that have hired OneSource. Those small shops are in business because they have great relationships, and if they run with a deal, then they're usually they'll handle them pretty well.
yeah, yeah. No, it's fascinating. So, do you have any stories? I guess last question I want to ask here. Any stories on a deal that's gone sideways? Maybe a lesson learned. Any specifics to where, man, we were negotiating this, we did it all the wrong way, we didn't follow any of my best practices, and then we got screwed because of it.
I don't know if we get screwed. So I'll just give you one that's going on right now. It's ongoing, which is really an interesting one. So as you know, I always have two runners that we're training at all times. So one of my runners, I have a client who the father I've known 25 years. I invested in his company. We made money together. He did really well, and we have a great relationship. Well, his son goes into business, and the son needs an office space. So I give it to one of my runners, and our deal with all of our runners is, it's a referral from us, and we keep the relationship. Well, the son's trying to build the relationships outside of his father, so the father gives me the son, and the son likes my runner. So he calls me and says, "Hey, I want to work with your runner, who's no longer my runner anymore. He's on his own." So So I go to the runner and I go, hey, this is a normal art deal. He says, we'll do 50-50. And I said, great. I just said, great. He runs the deal. So the next deal comes up, same guy. He's looking to do a second office. And this time he goes, hey, just take deals takes a lot of work. And I go, hey, I'm happy to do a little less. So we negotiate. It's like a 2-minute conversation because he's a good guy. We're not trying to screw him. So we'd agree to do 60-40. Okay, so we do 60-40 on the next deal. Now the third deal comes up and he calls me and he says, this time I think I want to use you guys, your team. So I met with him last week and I said, look, it was 60-40 you because you ran the deal. We'll do 60-40 me if we run the deal on our side. And it's like, what's he going to say now? Because we have him, we'd already given him the 60-40. He says, great, I don't really care. And so this is the kind of happens all the time. And there are just these little conversations. Now with this is my former runner. He sits right next to us. We have a great relationship. I'm not going to do anything to screw him because we trained him and he's doing great. He's made principal at Lee. I don't think he's going to screw us because we trained him and we're principals together. But this is how deals, this is just a normal, if you're not in the business, you don't recognize, well, this stuff happens all the time.
Yeah. You can't be afraid to have those conversations because you have to. I mean, it's part of the business, part of the job.
One of the things that's really hard, if I'm looking, because it's easy for me because I can come in and bully people. I don't want to say bully, but I can lead with authority. Let's say that. And these young people are like, well, they need the business, and so they'll give up more. And in a lot of cases, they should give up more because they're getting a deal that they wouldn't normally get. They're going to make some money on it, gives them exposure into the marketplaces. But in some cases, they're like, yeah, you're referring me a 1,200-foot guy that doesn't know what he wants and he's going to tour 20 times. I'm going to give you 20%. And if you don't like that, like I'm going to go get something else. And my comment to all the young people is, if you're busy enough, you can say that to somebody.
Yeah.
If you're not busy, if you're not out there cold calling and generating your own business, then you can't say it because you're begging for business.
Yeah.
And people know who's out there and who's busy and who's not. People know. Yeah. And so a lot of times we give it to, like, we'll bring a guy in because he's not busy. And we know it's a tougher deal. It's like, hey, you want to run this? And we'll split it with you. And he'll like, yeah, I'll take it. Like, and he spends a shit ton of time on it and he's bummed. I'm like, you took it.
I said this, I had a conversation this morning with someone and I said, I have gotten better personally at managing difficult clients now that we have a lot more customers because I don't need them, and it's like, I have way more confidence and to say, look, like, here's why we're doing it the way we're doing it. And you can like it or not. But early on, when you only have a couple customers, it's like, you got to do everything. And so I understand. And I agree. The best way to get out of that position is to build your pipeline.
The definition of efficient market, when there's a ton of buyers and a ton of sellers, and then they negotiate all together and with the market, like what Amanda does, your wife.
Yeah.
There's buyers and sellers all in these marketplaces and they create value. And then you understand what that marketplace is. When you have very few buyers or you have very few sellers, then the market gets skewed. And it's always constantly changing. And so what brokers, senior brokers, tend to forget is the market's always moving. And so you have to, like, I had to ask Nick Whitehouse the other day, our young guy, what's the current deals? Because I'm not running these deals that are out of state. I'm like, what do we normally get? And he rattled off, we get this, this, and this. And I'm like, perfect. Now I know the marketplace today because we've got 15, 20 deals in other markets going right now. So now I know what it is. And our guys, because we do have 15 or 20, and we did 20 last year out of state, that they go, hey, look, this is what we got. We got these 7 marketplaces. This is what the deal is. And other brokers go, okay, that's a market data point.
Yeah. Very interesting, very valuable stuff, and interesting for me to hear on a niche inside the business, so not something we're at one source talking about all the time, but it's definitely something that a lot of brokers are thinking about.
So let's take this and tie it into our system. As a broker, you're getting a referral and you go to the guy and you negotiate the splits. You send an email to that guy with, on the subject line, here's the transaction, and you store it in your prospects deal. It's there, right? It'll mirror up. It'll mirror up with your transactions because you're going to link it to the deal. A year later, you're going, hey, what did we agree on that split? You pull it up and you're just going to go right down, and it'll synchronize your inbox for with your Outlook, and you're going to see it right there. And so it's stored, it's there, it's a piece of cake. And that's just one way to do it through our system.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're not second guessing. It's in writing. It's easy to find. It's right there. Yeah.
Yep.
Take the drama out of it.
Well, you need it. And then,
Yeah.
and guess what then brokers do? You show up with your piece of paper and they go, well, that was a year ago and
Yeah,
the deal
yeah.
changed and I had to do this and I had to do that. It's like, you should have come to me, man.
Right.
The minute the deal changed, you should have come to me and we should have agreed on something. I did come to you and tell you, this is the conversation. I did tell you, yeah, but you didn't say anything about the splits. Here's the writing. And so,
well, here's what I've learned too, working with brokers the last 4.5 years is they love to negotiate. And so like, man, we get like, you can just see these guys trying to negotiate with us on our price and tactics and all these things. And it's just, they enjoy it. So it's funny to kind of watch. Yeah.
Right. And then we're like, hey, we're SaaS. This is what we charge.
Yeah. And they'll negotiate any opportunity they get. So I imagine the same goes for this topic as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good. All right.
Good topic.
Thanks so much. Another episode in the books. Thank you.
Thank you.